head into the championship round. The Indiana Pacers forced Game 7 in the NBA Final with a 108-91 win over the Thunder last night. Obi Toppin had 20 points. Andrew Nembhard added 17. It's the first Game 7 in the NBA Final since 2016. The matchup set for this Sunday night in Oklahoma City. The Houston Rockets have extended the contract of head coach Ime Udoka. He guided the team to a 52-30 record last season that secured the team's first playoff spot since 2020. The deal makes Udoka one of the highest-paid coaches in the NBA. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Summer days just got even brighter with Kohl's epic deals. Get this, you can score tees for just $5.99, bedding for 60% off, comfy shorts only $7.99, and so much more. You do not want to miss out. Shop Kohl's epic deals for savings on all things summer now, before it's too late. Select styles. Some exclusions apply. Offer ends June 22nd. See store at Kohls.com for details.
Now at Verizon, we have some big news for your peace of mind. For all our customers, existing and new, we're locking in low prices for 3 years guaranteed on My Plan and My Home. That's future you peace of mind. And everyone can save on a brand new phone on My Plan when you trade in any phone from one of our top brands. That's new phone peace of mind. Because at Verizon, whether you're already a customer or you're just joining us, we got you. Visit Verizon today. Price guarantee applies to then current base monthly rate. Additional terms and conditions apply for all offers.
If you want to be an alpha,
you've got to get the winning edge.
It's kind of a necessary ingredient if you want to lead the pack. So mark your territory
with the winning edge.
You're in the big leagues. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, welcome to the weekend edition of Football Full Circle right here on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Sirius Channel 159, Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel talking all things NFL and college football. Earlier in the week, Scott, Baltimore did sign former Green Bay Packers cornerback Jair Alexander. They signed him to a one-year deal worth around $6 million. But now there's rumors that the Pittsburgh Steelers potentially could be signing former All-Pro cornerback Jalen Ramsey from the Miami Dolphins. Good or bad move for the Steelers moving forward?
I'd rather have Ramsey. At least he's going to play. They're not going to be able to trade for him, right? And no one would be silly enough. I don't even know why the Dolphins, Joe, even threw that out there. I mean, no one's signing for a guy who's going to make $20+ million at his age and at this point in his career, right? I mean, it's so stupid. So you couldn't get a bag of bones, literally. I mean, literally, if the Pittsburgh Steelers said here, or if the Dolphins asked, give me a bag of bones for Jalen Ramsey, not that he's not any good, he's just making too much money. So I'd rather have Ramsey at a discounted price if they have to, if they get him off the free agent wire, if the Dolphins actually waive him, which wouldn't make any sense to me because the Dolphins are paying him. So why would they waive him? So I think he's got just as much. Alexander can't stay healthy. Never has. That's the problem. Good player. Yeah. I mean, it's $6 million.
Better.
If you told me he played, yeah, much better, right? At this point. But what are the chances of him playing 17 games? Unless the Ravens do things like, okay, you know what, we're not going to play you. We'll come up with some injury. We want you for the postseason. We'll get to the postseason. You play the last 4 or 5 weeks and in the playoffs, and then that's when our true value comes into play.
Well, do you feel like Baltimore's Super Bowl and AFC championship hopes really hinge on the defense, or is it more Lamar Jackson coming through in a big spot in terms of the passing attack? I think it's more their quarterback. Listen. Their defense is good enough to carry them. I think for the Pittsburgh Steelers, on the flip side, I think their defense does need as much help as they can possibly get. I know TJ Watt's there, Cam Hayward. I know what they did in terms of the draft and in solidifying the interior line. But that secondary, Scott, was abused, especially at the end of the regular season last year. And if they're going to make any run, potentially at an AFC championship, Ramsey potentially helps that. I don't know if it's that much of an upgrade, though. I think Jalen Ramsey's more at the end of his career, and even though he had a few interceptions from Miami last year, they came against garbage competition. I mean, it's not like you need Jalen Ramsey to be a contender.
No, right. I thought you were originally talking about Baltimore, but yeah, I mean, Listen, I still, if you get him on a free agent market, which means you could pay him league minimum since he's going to be paid all that money, then I would take him. I don't think he's like washed up completely. You put him in a winning organization. What people did last year with the Dolphins, Joe, that was such a, like, just an awful season. I'll keep it clean, right? I mean, so who knows what these players' attitudes were really like. A lot of these guys are thinking, I'm not going to put my neck out there to go get hurt for a team that's going absolutely nowhere. So I'll give him a little bit of a pass. Maybe he wasn't the guy that, they wanted him to be. Maybe he wasn't the leader, i.e., Rafi Devers, Boston Red Sox. So they said, all right, we're going to move on from you. But I would still take him on my team. I mean, think about the clubs that they're going to have to get through, right? Baltimore as well. All right, you're going to have to go through Kansas City, throw the football. You're going to have to go through Cincinnati, throw the football. You're going to have to go through even Houston, throw the football. You got a bunch of teams that I don't think you could have too many defensive backs. Even Buffalo, to a certain extent, with Josh Allen throwing the football. So the way these guys play 4, 5, 6 defensive backs sometimes, I'll take them on my team on the cheap, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Seeing if the market moved in any respect to the Pittsburgh Steelers potentially getting Jalen Ramsey. I'm looking at the market right now.
I doubt it.
But here's the thing, though, Scott. From an identity, minus 184. I think earlier in the week when we broke down the miss the playoffs and make the playoffs, to make the playoffs, they might have been in the area minus 165, right? Again, for Pittsburgh to make a legitimate run, their defense needs an upgrade. I'm not buying into the Steelers' defense the way it was 10 years ago under Mike Tomlin. I don't think they strike fear in anybody. And when you see TJ Watt, yes, he wants money. He's sort of at the end of his career, regressing slightly. Productivity fell off, especially at the end of the regular season. For them to legitimately challenge Baltimore and Kansas City and Buffalo, they need a top 10 defense, I believe, especially when you look at Aaron Rodgers at the quarterback position. Will that happen? I don't think so. Bigger picture, though, if you're looking at the Miami Dolphins, right, and you say, okay, they get rid of Jalen Ramsey, you look at Miami's price and you look at them to make the playoffs, this team is in a complete rebuild right now. I mean, they're minus 265 to miss the playoffs. So what does that say about Miami right now, knowing what we have from an offensive perspective, knowing what you have with the question marks with Tua, and knowing that the head coach could be dead man walking?
Yeah. I don't know what the Dolphins are doing, John. I mean, they really shouldn't be in a rebuilding phase if you think Tua is your quarterback, right? I mean, generally speaking, when you rebuild, it's mean you're tearing it all down, quarterback included, and you're starting fresh, and you want to bottom out and go draft a quarterback. I mean, they seemingly have the quarterback. Right? They just signed him to a new fat 4 or 5 year contract last year. So why would they be rebuilding? Why would they want to get rid of Ramsey? Why would they want to get rid of Jonnu Smith? They had that little run with Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago. I mean, I don't understand why they think they're in a rebuilding mode. The division at this point is not good. It's only going to get better. Patriots are only going to get better. Jets are only, I think, get better. Buffalo is what it is. They're going to be good for a while. I don't understand what Miami is doing. Maybe they're trying to get the head coach fired by dumping all his players. What a weird. That was a go-to team and a team on the rise a couple of years ago. And oddly enough, it's not the health of Tua that is holding them back. It's all the other stuff that's holding them back.
Well, if you fire Mike McDaniel, you have to fire Chris Greer as well. You can't keep Greer.
He's awful.
Yeah, I mean, you have to fire them both. Finally, get both of them out, get a new GM, and have the GM pick his new head coach. Because, again, they screwed up about 5 or 6 years ago. They made a push at Jim Harbaugh, a little, and then they backed off, right? And then all of a sudden they get Mike McDaniel from an offensive perspective. Great. We have one of the best wide receivers in the NFL in Tyreek Hill. We couldn't win a playoff game. We haven't won a playoff game in 24 years, Scott, right? So what's going to change for Miami? And again, if Tua is the quarterback of the future and you sign him to a long-term deal, the defense needs to take the next step. They haven't addressed anything on the defensive side of the ball that says this team is going to be a top 15 unit.
Yeah. Listen, defense and offense. That team is a sinking ship right now. I mean, there's not like one. Like I said, the best wide receiver, or at least receiver, last year is the guy they were trying to trade to Pittsburgh with Smith. He led the team in receptions last year, and you're trying to trade him. So what sign is that? You let Raheem Mostert go, one of the better, the running back. Now the running backfield is pretty deep, but still, you let him walk. You're trying to trade one of your better defensive backs. You let him walk. I mean, it's a weird team. They don't know if they're coming or going. There is no middle ground with them. They're better off winning 4 or 5 games than they are 8 or 9, and maybe, just maybe, sneaking into the playoffs. So I would be like, I am, as a Dolphin fan, I'm down on them this year. Could they be good? Yeah. I mean, you still got Tyreek Hill, and you still got a healthy Tua at this point. So could they be good? Yes, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Under 6.5 wins on FanDuel, plus 155. Can I get you to take that? I think they could be a 6-11 football team.
6-11?
6-11.
Yeah.
Especially if they start slow, Scott. This team will implode. I honestly believe that. Tyreek Hill will be checked out. Yeah, and you just look at Mike McDaniel. Can't win against better competition above 500. This team is atrocious. When we come back, we'll dive into some prop bets right here on Football Full Circle. Lisi and Wetzel talking NFL.
Out of 5 scientists agree it's smarter to be on SportsGrid, and we're pretty sure that one scientist is still a virgin. He just gives that 5. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With your news flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. This update brought to you by Sky Rizzi. A SpaceX rocket being tested in Texas exploded Wednesday night, sending a dramatic fireball high into the sky. The company said the Starship experienced a major anomaly at about 11 p.m. while on the test stand preparing for the 10th flight test at Starbase, SpaceX's launch site at the southern tip of Texas. SpaceX said Wednesday night's explosion posed no hazards to nearby communities. On Thursday, President Donald Trump signed an executive order to keep TikTok running in the U.S. for another 90 days to give his administration more time to broker a deal to bring the social media platform under American ownership. Trump disclosed the executive order on the Truth Social platform Thursday morning. It is the 3rd time Trump has extended the deadline. It is not clear how many times Trump can or will keep extending the ban as the government continues to try to negotiate a deal for TikTok, which is owned by China's ByteDance. I'm Trey Westerberg with your news flash.
Here's Comedians and Sketchers Getting Comfortable, presented by Hands-Free Skechers Slip-In.
Hey, I'm Bobby Slayton, and I'm here with my pal, comedian, and Skechers ambassador, Mr. Howie Mandel.
Why did it take so long to invent something as amazing as slip-ins? I know it seems simple, but it took Skechers to invent a better pair of shoes.
Yep, with Skechers Slip-ins, you just step it and go. You don't have to touch your shoes. And by the way, Slip-ins are for the whole family, men, women, and kids. In all your favorite Skechers styles, find Skechers Slip-ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/policy. That's ethos.com/policy.
There's something you should know and always remember. SportsGrid does not increase luck. We're your unfair advantage for the latest sports gaming information. If you're looking for luck, go find a horseshoe. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, back on Football Full Circle. We talked about 3 teams in the AFC. Baltimore, the addition of Jair Alexander. Pittsburgh, the potential addition of Jalen Ramsey. And if Ramsey does sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers, what does that mean for the Miami Dolphins? We talked about their losses in the playoffs during the break. Miami hasn't won a playoff game since 2000, 3rd longest streak in all of major sports. They are a dead losing organization in terms of the playoffs. And Mike McDaniel's 0 for 2 in terms of 2 playoff scenarios. One without Tua, they lost as a 12-point dog on the road to Buffalo. And then 2 years ago, they lost to Kansas City and Pat Mahomes. In order for this team to make a run, I still think it's on the defensive side of the ball We'll see if they can get there, though, Scott. Well, when we look at some futures, though, for Miami, I just want to see now division. Because, I mean, let's say you do catch lightning in a bottle. 7-1 to win the AFC East this year. I mean, think about that. 7-1. I don't think that's great of a number when you look at Buffalo and minus 240. Jets are 14-1. I would much rather bet on Aaron Glenn and the Jets at 14-1 than Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins with a 7-1 number.
Yeah. I mean, that's a bet, Joe, of Josh Allen is getting hurt. You know, that's what you're realistically betting on. It could have happened. Yeah, it's the NFL, right? I mean, quarterbacks get hurt in the NFL. The only way Buffalo's not winning that division is if Josh Allen gets hurt. And even if he does, who knows, what they would actually do. Maybe go pick themselves up a backup or something along those lines. But realistically, is Miami – I don't even know if Miami's the second best team in that division anymore. I don't know who would be, but – the Jets, I mean, listen, I think the Jets are going to stink with Justin Fields, but, on paper, they might be halfway decent. I have no faith in New England. Dolphins should be the second best team, but that doesn't mean they will be. It's not worth a flyer to me.
Well, let's take it a step further because we all talk about Tua and if he's the quarterback of the future, right? You sign them. 21-1 shot for him to lead the league in passing. And it all hinges potentially on Tua remaining healthy, right? You take the 21-1 lottery ticket, right? At the end of the day, if he plays 17 games, maybe he can challenge. We still think it'll be Burrow. We still think potentially Mahomes and Dak Prescott will be in the mix, right? Top 3 numbers on FanDuel. But would you take a flyer on Tua to lead the league in passing?
That is the NFL, not just the AFC, right? So, yeah.
All NFL, most regular season passing yards. Right.
Yeah. I wouldn't. He's an injury waiting to happen. He's overdue. He was basically injury-free last year. To think that this guy's going to go back-to-back years and not get hurt, and not miss a couple of games, I doubt it. I love taking flyers, but, you can flyer yourself to death here. You got to pick and choose. He would not be one, Joe. He's just too susceptible. And there's no guarantee, even if he did stay healthy, he would be the number one guy. He could if he stayed healthy, but I'd rather take a flyer elsewhere.
All right, they don't have it up, but it's a hypothetical, and they might have it on DraftKings. They don't have it up on FanDuel. FanDuel does have the 30, 35, and 40-plus touchdown leaders, right? They only list 6 of them. Would you take a shot if they offered a 35 touchdown number on Tua as opposed to leading the league in yards?
35 touchdown passes?
Yep.
That's a lot. That's a lot, right? It's over 2 a game.
Well, I'll throw it out for you. Sam Darnold has a 12-1 number. Jalen Hurts has a 13-1 number. Cam Ward is 15-1 at 35 plus. You got to believe Tua is in the mix, right, with Sam Darnold.
Right.
Maybe he's, if he's 14-1, 15-1 in that area, would you take a flyer?
Yeah, that flyer I would take. That because I don't have to worry about what other quarterbacks are doing. Just you do what you have to do to it. I'm not going to worry about anybody else. Just get your 35. If it's in that 10 to 15 range, which it figures to be, yeah, I guess I would. Dolphin defense is going to give up a ton of points, right? So, it's 13, 14, 15-1. I'd probably include them in one of those parlays.
I would be much more inclined to take that bet because if they do, because we know they beat up on sub 500 competition, right? So when they beat up on bad teams, they beat up on bad teams. Them up. Right.
Yeah.
So if you get that type of stretch where he throws 3 and 4 touchdown passes and you're going to get him for at least 14 to 17 games, we'll give him 3 games, in terms of differential. He should eclipse 35 touchdowns. Now, I'm looking up on DraftKings now. We'll see if we can get it up in the break. I'll see if they list a number. But if you're going to give me that 15-1 or even 14, 13 in that area, I would take a flyer on Tua. That would be the only area to potentially do that. If you're trending in the right direction, he plays a limited amount of games, he might eclipse that number. They even offer a 30 touchdown number. Would you feel more confident with 30 as opposed to 35?
Yeah. I'd take less odds. You're going to get less odds, obviously. I would take less odds with 30 than I would with 35. 5 guys last year threw for 35 touchdowns or more. Darnold, which would be the surprise, right? Goff, Jackson, Baker, and Joey B. So 30 it'd be more in line. Although I will say it goes from last year anyway. It goes from 35 to 29. There were no more guys throwing for 30 than there were throwing for 35.
Interesting,
it goes
right?
from Darnold at 35, it's a Bo Nix at 29. That's kind of weird.
So let me ask you this then, because I don't believe if the Dolphins start fast, meaning if they have a slow start, like I believe, I think Tyreek Hill could be checked out. So any type of prop bet on Tyreek Hill, buying into the fact that he's going to have a 1,500, 1,700-yard season, I would bet against it. And it's strictly off of team success, right? I don't buy into Mike McDaniel. I don't buy into this team being a 9-win football team. Can they? Yeah, anything is possible. But I do not believe the moves that they have made and where they are entering the season that this team has continuity. So for me, no bets on Tyreek Hill entering 2025. Yes or no for you?
I'm going to go no. I'm going to bet Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, we'll see. When we come back, we'll talk more Tyreek Hill, other players in the AFC coming right back.
There's smart
and there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1980, Panamanian boxer Roberto Duran takes a WBC welterweight title from Sugar Ray Leonard.
He's playing with Sugar Ray Leonard. I don't understand why. I can't believe it. 4. Duran thinks he has won the fight. I can't believe it. The bell. It's over.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
To understand the consequences of technology advancing faster than human evolution, University of Texas researchers have created an electronic face tattoo, wirelessly monitoring brain waves and pupil dilation, detecting mental strain without bulky headgear. To understand the stress of workers in professions like truck driving or air traffic controllers, where mental lapses can have serious consequences. Ouch. The big question, does the tattoo come off?
Why does it say lab specimen on your forehead?
Follow me at Capalbo on X and stay tuned to the Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Sports Rage tonight.
I nearly fell off my chair when I saw that the Los Angeles Dodgers bought the LA Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers were bought by the Buss family in 1979. They paid $67 million. They just sold in 2025 for $10 billion.
It's Sports Rage Tonight with Gabe Morency. Weekdays, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on the SportsGrid Radio Network. There comes a point when the chips are down.
To coin a phrase.
When the only thing you can do is stop and wait. Do you want to face that moment prepared?
Or rely on luck?
Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Left off talking about Tyreek Hill and Tua in Miami. What does that mean for the Miami Dolphins' success? Scott, they didn't have the 30-35 up on DraftKings, but Tua's number this year for passing touchdowns might shock you. 23.5, minus 110 either way, and his passing yards, 34.50.5, 110 either way. So if you get him for 30-35, you're going to get double-digit value for the most part. 23.5, you like the under?
No, I like the over. Again, he stays healthy, right? He'll go way past this number. I can't imagine him. He should, right? He should. And here's the thing with Ty Hill, to tie it in with Tua, right? I mean, the two great mysteries for the Dolphins. Ask yourself if you think Ty Hill is a Hall of Famer right now. And whether you say yes or no, he's borderline. He's debatable, right? There's no right or wrong answer. So I'm guessing / betting on that his people go to him and say, Ty, you're at that fork in the road. You know, if you want to screw around like you did last year, you're not going to get in the Hall of Fame, and your legacy is just going to be a real good player. You got your Super Bowl ring. Just go home, be happy with your 12,000 kids. But you have a chance to be in the Hall of Fame. But we need a couple more years out of you, a couple more really good Tyreek Hill years, and you're in the Hall of freaking Fame. I would think that would be enough to motivate him, Joe. You know, he's in the 40 ranges as far as career yards and receptions and touchdowns. Couple of good more years, he'll be in the top 15, top 20, and he'll be in.
Do you really believe people in his camp are in his ear talking about? No, seriously, I wonder.
Yeah.
You really think these guys?
If you're in his camp, you want him to do what? You want him to keep playing because he's paying your paycheck, right?
Yeah,
so you're doing everything you can to motivate him. So that would be my angle. Get in the Hall of Fame.
The agent wants his Rosenhaus wants his 5 or 10%, and his his strength coach and his track guy, and he's running the 100 meters in 10.5, right? It's one of the fastest times in the world, supposedly. So there you go. I mean, all I could say is this team, in terms of just identity, starts at the top with Mike McDaniel and trickles down. Everybody loved him because he was a player's coach and he coddled everybody. He was completely 360 from what Brian Flores is or was, right, in terms of how he handled that team. And this team has only regressed since he took over in the first couple of years. Yeah, they have an explosive offense and they can move the football against, garbage defenses. But when we play an elite defense, we get punched in the mouth. And that's the problem. Yeah. So, again, I can't buy into anything. The only number I would buy into would be the Tua touchdowns. I do like them over the 23.5, but I would take a shot on 30 and 35 plus should he play a 17-game regular season. Team specials up on FanDuel, Scott. There was a couple others we didn't touch on the other day, so let's jump on them right now. We didn't talk about Buffalo. Buffalo, in regards to a couple of prop bets, Buffalo to score one passing touchdown in every regular season game in 2025 is a 10-1 number. That's not bad when you think about it. We know they want to run the football, but to throw a passing touchdown in every game, 10-1, I think I might take that as well.
Yeah, I like those bets with the high-scoring teams. Buffalo, Baltimore, Joe, Detroit. These teams are good for 3-4 touchdowns every game. It's just a matter of, in this case, will he throw for 1 versus running for 4? And chances are halfway decent he will. You worry about a snow game, but even then you could throw the football in the snow. We've seen teams do that. I prefer playing in 60 degrees, but still, it is doable even in Buffalo. So the concern is, last game of the regular season when Buffalo's got everything won, like Kansas City last year, or you're locked in, no matter whether you had a number 1 seed or not. That would be the concern, but that's okay. I'll take my chances. I'll hedge out of that, bet the under passing touchdowns in a game. You can bet on anything these days, so if that bet is still alive, you have plenty of room to hedge your bet in the last game of the regular season in case Allen doesn't play.
Yeah, but even if Allen, doesn't play, you still have Trubisky there, right? Trubisky he's not a starter. But he's better than some, college kid coming in, Dylan Gabriel as your backup, right? I mean, think of it that way. I mean, it's not like you're betting on at least a veteran that has some, a little tread on the tire. We'll come back. We'll talk more NFL, also sprinkle in some college football. Keep it where it is.
Winning
winning edge. You've got it. But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us. But we're working on that. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. Juan Soto earned his 1,000th career hit, but the Mets came up short, losing to the Braves 7-1 on Thursday. The Mets have lost 6 in a row, a slump that now has them tied with the Phillies for the top spot in the NL East. The Yankees beat the Angels 7-3. The Twins pounded the Reds 12-5. The Diamondbacks beat the Blue Jays 9-5. The Giants got by the Guardians 2-1. The Royals over the Rangers 4-1. The Brewers scored an 8-7 win at Wrigley over the Cubs. In 11 innings, the Nationals nipped the Rockies 4-3. Doubleheader in Detroit. The Tigers took game 1 9-2. In the nightcap, the Pirates scored 4 times in the top of the 10th to win at 8-4. Cardinals and White Sox in Chicago, doubleheader. The Cards took game 1 5-4 and finished the sweep with an 8-6 win in 10 innings in the nightcap. The Phillies scored a 2-1 win over the Marlins. The Orioles 4-1 winners at Tampa. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Summer days just got even brighter with Kohl's epic deals. Get this. You can score tees for just $5.99. Bedding for 60% off. Comfy shorts only $7.99. And so much more. You do not want to miss out. Shop Kohl's epic deals for savings on all things summer now, before it's too late. Select styles. Some exclusions apply. Offer ends June 22nd. See store at Kohls.com for details.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/policy. That's ethos.com/policy.
You're listening to Sports Grid, spreading the winning edge far and wide. Terrestrial, internet, TV, satellite, and don't forget our mobile app. Face it, the winning edge is everywhere. Somewhere there's a squirrel frustrated he can't get a phone. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, back on Football Full Circle. We left off talking about some of the prop bets up on FanDuel, the specials. Left off talking about Buffalo and Josh Allen and the team as a whole to throw a passing touchdown in every regular season game. That's a 10-1 number. Dak Prescott in Dallas has the same number, Scott. We talked about Dak, potentially leading the league, in passing. We sort of like that with C.D. Lamb, the emergence of George Pickens. You brought up Rico Dowdle and the rushing attack, right? So let's take the other side of the bet for Dallas. For them to have a rushing touchdown in every game is 70-1, Scott.
Ooh,
it's not
I was going to say 25. I was going to get 25.
70-1. I mean, that's a huge number. Now, here's the thing. We know Dallas, I don't think they're going to be very good, right? But if Dak is healthy and they're moving the football, do we expect this team to be just completely shut out in terms of games? Now, I believe the one game that they got knocked around last year was the road tilt in Buffalo, right? That was the game James Cook rushed for 175 yards. I don't know if they scored a touchdown in that game. I could be wrong. If anything, I thought it was like 34-3 when they played Buffalo in Orchard Park. But outside of that, 70-1, I'll take my shot. Rushing touchdown in every game.
Yeah, there were 2 games last year. I didn't write down the games for Dallas for some reason or another. But I had Dallas with 2 games not scoring a touchdown. But that was last year, backup quarterback, so you'll throw that out the window, right? The numbers are there in order for you to hit this bet. And that's having a bad defense, quite frankly. You need to score points.
But it's not a touchdown, Scott. It's a rushing touchdown.
I know. Right. I know. But still, you can't be thrown for every single touchdown. So, do you have the bad defense? Yes. Do you have a new head coach that wants to be aggressive, who's an offensive mind? Yes. You don't have great running backs, clearly, but that's okay. If you get it, midway through the season, a lot of these are just like put a couple shekels on these and put them away, forget about it. And then, midway through the season, go back and look and see at all these bets and say, oh, look at that. That's still alive. You know what? Dallas got the, 7 straight games with a touchdown run. It's one of those things.
So there were two games that they had field goals only. It was the blowout loss at home to Detroit, 47-9, and then it was the blowout home loss to the Eagles, 34-6. So, I mean, I think those are the two. Other than that, every game they scored a touchdown. So, I mean, 70-1. I mean, it's all on Dak Prescott and his health, right? Do we believe Dak could play 17 games? Doesn't matter if they're over 500 or not. They'll most likely move the football. And move the football, they're in, red zone opportunities. You don't care who scores.
Wow.
And Dak is mobile enough to get you in the end zone.
Yeah, look, you know what, though, Joe? A little pop quiz. Guess how many rushing touchdowns the Cowboys had as a whole last year in 17 games? How about 6? Man, is that possible? 6 rushing touchdowns the whole year?
Right.
Dowdle had 2. Zeke had 3. Prescott had 1. So they had only 5 rushing touchdowns out of running backs last season. Man, their rushing attack was awful. And I get it. Cooper Rush, played a bunch of those games, but man, that's no wonder it's 70-80-1. It's got to be an NFL low. It's got to be an NFL low. I bet, I don't know if you can figure out the rankings of these, but I can't imagine too many teams having less than 6 rushing touchdowns an entire season last year.
I don't know if the Giants, well, let's see, were the Giants up there? Team rushing touchdowns. I think the Giants
year.
Yeah.
We got 13.
Wow.
Tracy 5, Singletary 4. Yeah.
Okay.
How about
you
Tennessee? Tennessee was awful. Let me try one more. Tennessee rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
Although they had Pollard last year, but still. Tennessee 11. Wow. I mean, 6 is just brutal.
They might have been dead last, right?
I'm thinking. Like I said, if they weren't last, they were pretty close to it. I mean, they can't be anything like,
I believe the Browns had 8.
Even the Browns
had 8. Cowboys had 6. Jets had 8. And the Vikings, which is shocking, had 9 with Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler. So there you go. Dead last in the NFL. So do you think the question remains, do you think that they'll be dead last in rushing touchdowns this year? If not, the 70-1, you can't get a better number than that then, Scott.
Right. They have to be better this year. They just, even with Dak at quarterback, they just have to be. Did they upgrade their backfield, that much? Not necessarily, but I mean, 5 out of running backs. I mean, that really is just, you don't appreciate how bad a team's backfield is until you look at the end of the season stats and you just look and you see who's rushing and for what. And in the end, it's like, they barely ran for 1,000 yards last year. I mean, it's just, horrible.
It is crazy because there is a team that has astronomical odds to have a rushing touchdown in every game, okay? Now, this team, don't look, this team...
To the positive odds, like plus money or negative money, you mean?
How about almost $90 more than the Cowboys number? They're at 160-1, okay? Now, this team had 7 more rushing touchdowns. They had 13 in 2024. And they're going to throw it. Caleb Williams and Chicago's number with Ben Johnson to have a rushing touchdown in every game, 160-1. Ben Johnson loves to run the football. He did it in Detroit with Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm not suggesting he has those type of backs in Chicago. But if they get into anywhere near the goal line, even Caleb could score for you. Would you take a shot on that number as opposed to Dallas's?
Yeah, that I would do. Dallas is like too far down. Like they at least the Bears improved their offensive line. They got a new head coach. Well, not that Dallas doesn't, but they improved their offensive line. I'm more comfortable with Chicago. cold weather, December, run the ball a little bit. Let's not have Caleb Williams screw up in the red zone, whereas I think with Dallas, they would feel more comfortable. Dak throwing the football in the red zone. Yeah, I like Chicago with that one.
You see, now I'm trying to see exactly. And now here's another one that I think is absolutely crazy. Green Bay to score one rushing touchdown in every game. 220 to 1. You got Josh Jacobs.
Wow.
They feed Josh Jacobs multiple times. This is a team in 2024 that had 23 rushing touchdowns. They rushed for 2,496 yards as a team. Okay? And
Jacobs
you're telling
had 15 touchdowns alone.
So would you take that shot?
I would definitely take that shot. Would you say it was 220 to 1?
Yeah.
Got to be a rushing touchdown, obviously, with Jacobs.
Yes.
Can't be a receiving. So
no, not one touchdown. They have the market for that. If you want Green Bay to score a touchdown in every regular season game, it's plus 110, which isn't a bad number. But to score a rushing touchdown in every game is plus 220 to 1.
Yeah. And I looked it up, and I remember this. I was going to say it, but I'll give you the facts to back it up. I remembered it took them a while, for whatever reason, Joe, to hand the ball off to the guy. It's like you brought him in, you gave him all this money, and I just remember the first month, for some stupid reason, they weren't giving him the ball. He complained about it, and he scored a touchdown basically second half of the season every single game. Right. It was only the first 4 or 5 games.
It was a complete pig at the end of the regular season. We'll come back. Yep. More NFL and a little college football on Football Full Circle.
We're not saying every SportsGrid listener is a legend, but you might start thinking about who's going to play you in the movie. Just saying. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With your news flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. This update brought to you by Sky Rizzi. A SpaceX rocket being tested in Texas exploded Wednesday night, sending a dramatic fireball high into the sky. The company said the Starship experienced a major anomaly at about 11 p.m. while on the test stand preparing for the 10th flight test at Starbase, SpaceX's launch site at the southern tip of Texas. SpaceX said Wednesday night's explosion posed no hazards to nearby communities. On Thursday, President Donald Trump signed an executive order to keep TikTok running in the U.S. for another 90 days to give his administration more time to broker a deal to bring the social media platform under American ownership. Trump disclosed the executive order on the Truth Social platform Thursday morning. It is the third time Trump has extended the deadline. It is not clear how many times Trump can or will keep extending the ban as the government continues to try to negotiate a deal for TikTok, which is owned by China's ByteDance. I'm Trey Westerberg with your news flash.
Summer days just got even brighter with Kohl's epic deals. Get this. You can score tees for just $5.99. Bedding for 60% off. Comfy shorts only $7.99. And so much more. You do not want to miss out. Shop Kohl's epic deals for savings on all things summer now, before it's too late. Select styles. Some exclusions apply. Offer ends June 22nd. See store at Kohls.com for details.
What was that? That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud Phone System. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very
calm. I am. Ooma has everything I need to handle the busy holiday season, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business comm at ooma.com/radio.
Remember when you were thankful you could just get AM and FM? Things have progressed. Now even an app on your phone can give you a 21st century thrill with that little drop of heaven called the deposit notification. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, back on Football Full Circle. Scott and I were breaking down some team specials up on FanDuel. I'll throw one more at you before we transition to college football, Scott, and trying to see if there's any juicy type of numbers. How about my Arizona Cardinals? All right, we talked about them. I actually like the number on FanDuel. 6-0 in the NFC West this year. That's a 75-1 number. I think they have the opportunity to do that. But we know about James Conner. We know how they like to run the football as well. For them to score a rushing touchdown in every game, 110-1 for the Cardinals. Do you believe in Kyler Murray enough? Maybe, in your opinion, they don't make it to the playoffs, but can they score a rushing touchdown in every regular season game? Kyler's mobile enough. James Conner's there. They do have great third down backs as well. And I believe the offensive line is good enough to get that number.
Yeah. 18 touchdowns last year rushing, including Kyler Murray, which obviously you would do for this bet here, right? So, 8. By the way, Packers had 4 games last year without a rushing touchdown. All at the beginning of the game when they didn't get the ball for whatever reason. So, if they have the philosophy of giving the guy the ball to start the season like they should have last year, that's not a bad little bet. So, all right, so back to Arizona. All right, defense stinks. You're going to be in a lot of high-scoring games. You want to keep the ball away from the opposition because your defense stinks. You got a good running back in Connor. You got a mobile quarterback in Kyler Murray. You can do the tush push if you want to. He had 5 last season. It's tough getting a touchdown in every single game. It with 17 games. It's not the 14-game or 12-game schedule we grew up on. 17 games is a lot of games. But again, it goes back to you take certain flyers. I would take a flyer with Arizona.
I would.
The fear would be, that they're down 21 points and you're throwing the ball. But you know what? You get into the red zone, that all goes out the window. You're still trying to run the ball in. So I would be okay with that flyer at 100+1.
I would as well. And again, 18-1 for Arizona to potentially kick a field goal in every game. Again, indoors for the most part, right? You get 8 home games with a pure surface. That's not going to affect them in any capacity, right? You just got to worry about road environments. But I still think about when they played Buffalo week 1 of the regular season last year, put up 28 points, right? They can score. So even if you don't like the rushing touchdown at 110-1, take a flyer potentially on the field goal as well. Let's talk about the SEC. I've been licking my chops for week 1 of college football. That starts on Labor Day weekend, right? Season does kick off on August 23rd, which is considered week 0. We'll take a look at SEC championship odds. Texas, +290, Scott. Ahead of the Georgia Bulldogs at +310. Alabama with a new quarterback and their head coach, Kalen DeBoer, +480. And Brian Kelly at a 7-1 number. Let me ask you this. Do you believe that Arch Manning, just in your opinion, best quarterback in college football entering this season?
No, I don't know who is, but I wasn't that enamored with him last year, Joe. I was calling for him to play, but when he got his opportunities to play, now listen, he's basically going from high school to college, and being thrown into a big-time environment, right? He didn't have that little year or whatever to, get into it. But I wasn't that impressed. Like, if you didn't tell me that was Arch Manning, I didn't come out of those games in which he played saying, boy, he looks great. He's going to be this. He's going to be that. I thought he looked mediocre at best, to tell you the truth, considering who, the talent he had around him and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I really wasn't that impressed, to tell you the truth. Were you?
No. Again, and you can go to that game against Georgia, middle part of the year, where they put Arch Manning in. Now, they did put Quinn Ewers back into that matchup. But again, both quarterbacks look like a deer in the headlights. And yeah, Arch put up statistics through the air and on the ground against mediocre defenses and in garbage time, against teams like UL Monroe and some of the others that they beat up on last year. But now it starts week 1. They do face off against the defending national champs. Ohio State will get a gauge that way. But even big picture, I don't know if Arch Manning is an elite quarterback. I'll see him play this year, and we'll gauge from that aspect. I think there's some other quarterbacks in college now. I think Garrett Nussmeier is another one that potentially can challenge, the likes of Arch Manning. We'll see if Cade Klubnik and Clemson could do that. But just from the SEC odds, Scott, the only team, there's 2 teams that I would bet on to potentially win the championship. Texas is the favorite at +290. Can't buy into Sark, even though they made it to the championship game last year. You couldn't even beat Gunnar Stockton after Carson Beck came out, right? So what does that say? And you had a much better team potentially last year than you do this year. I like Georgia plus 310, but LSU at 7-1. Bullseye is on Brian Kelly's back as well. Those are the only two teams I buy into right now.
Yeah, Georgia would be the one for me. They got Alabama, but that game is at home. They got Texas, but that game is at home. So they got a couple of big boys, as you're going to have in the SEC, right? There's just so many good teams nowadays. So, but at least you got those at home. Their road games at Tennessee, okay, but at Auburn, at Mississippi State. You could lose one game easily and still make the college football playoff or even win the SEC, So I don't think anyone's going to run the table in the SEC. So even if they lost to Tennessee, they're not losing to Kentucky at home. They're not losing to Ole Miss at home. They're not losing to Florida. I mean, who are they really going to lose to? You may not think they're the best team, but I'll reload with Georgia, chip on their shoulder, quarterback leaves to go take money down at Miami. Maybe they pushed them out. Who knows? But bottom line, now, Kirby's got a selling point. You know what? We got embarrassed last year. We lost 3 games for the first time since I've been a head coach here, So, and they're going to be rock solid. Their recruiting's number 1, number 2 in the nation. And, so I don't even care how many people they lost from last year's club. They just reload. So I'll go with Georgia. I'm not a big Nussmeier guy, by the way, for LSU. I'm not,
I need to see a little bit. I'm just talking about if you look, because, again, he's got a little Brett Favre in him, riverboat gambler. He makes great plays, and then when the guys are triple covered, he has no problem throwing the ball into, multi-covered, players for interceptions. So we'll see how that plays out. To Scott's point, the Georgia price slightly down by 50 cents from 7-1 to plus 650 to win a natty. That's the number I like. I think there's no doubt that Georgia makes the playoff. We'll come back. Week 1 in college football coming back next.
Luck is winning the lottery. Strategy is settling your divorce before cashing in the ticket. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channel dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and Sirius XM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Money Line at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Morency on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Imagine combining the exciting investment opportunity of cryptocurrencies with the power of artificial intelligence to maximize your IRA, 401k, or other investment funds. Listen, if you're looking for ways to accelerate your retirement growth, Block Trust IRA has market-leading strategies and solutions for all levels of investors, from $1,000 to millions. And they partner with Bitcoin Magazine's #1 crypto trading fund in the world to maximize your returns. Plus, their team of IRA specialists is here to help you roll over your IRA or qualified retirement account to the new world of cryptocurrency investments. So make this free call right now to set up your account and learn more.
800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. That's 800-434-5313.
It's stark but true. You can either listen to SportsGrid for strategies, odds, and more, or you can pay your bills by digging in your couch cushions for change. Just be sure to wear gloves. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, back on Football Full Circle. Scott and I were just looking at Georgia's win total, 9.5 wins. Juice to the over at -154. You want to take a shot on Gunnar Stockton and the team to be 9-3 again, plus 126 to the under. So we'll see how it plays out. I like them to be at least a 10-win football team. I'm with you, Scott, when you just look at how Kirby has, recruited offense and defensive lines as good as anybody. And again, talking about a team last year that entered the regular season, basically had won 29 of the last 30 games, right? And beat up on Florida State. We know about the situation as it related to the quarterback Carson Beck getting hurt in the SEC championship. They still were able to close the door against the Longhorns, couldn't get it done against Notre Dame in terms of the playoff, but we'll see how it plays out in 2025. Week 1 matchup, and this is a big one. I want to get your take on it because it's two coaches potentially on the hot seat. You got Brian Kelly and LSU on the road to Clemson. Dabo and this team, they've taken in transfer talent. Cade Klubnik is another quarterback, potentially Heisman dark horse. Clemson 2.5 point home favorites over the Tigers. 56.5 for that week 1 battle. Team, which Tiger do you like in that matchup in Death Valley? 2 Tigers and 2 Death Valleys. So which one is the real Death Valley and which one wins this matchup?
Yeah. It's the SEC versus the ACC, right? And you're getting the SEC plus points. That to me is an automatic. Where do I put my shekels? Who's willing to take that bet? I'll grab LSU. Buy the hook. Get it up to 3, right? It's only minus 102. You get LSU with a field goal. As much as I don't like the Nussmeier, and they're talking about how great this kid's going to be, and everyone's all back for LSU and all the rhetoric that we always get. They never win a big-time game on the road. But I will say this. They always schedule these tough games to start the season, LSU. I'll give Brian Kelly and that LSU program credit. They're not pulling a Georgia here and starting with Austin Peay and Charlotte and University of Topeka High. So, but I will take, even in Death Valley, give me LSU. Plus the
I like LSU as well, but you're scaring me now that you're back in the Tigers. We'll see. Now, you might not like Garrett Nussmeier, but he does have potentially the best wide receiver core coming back in terms of college. So keep an eye out for that. Aaron Anderson. You have, obviously, Nick Anderson coming over from Oklahoma. Brown, the big play wide receiver from Kentucky. They do lose Mason Taylor, their star tight end, to the New York Jets in terms of the draft, but they are loaded at every skill position. And if you're Brian Kelly right now, you have to answer the critics. You won an SEC West title in year number 1, right? You've regressed since that point. You came out, you've lost 3 straight opening season matchups. Last year, they lost as a 6.5 point favorite against USC to Lincoln Riley and USC. Think about how bad that team was. And LSU lost to them last year at the start of the regular season. The other marquee battle has 2 coaches potentially on the hot seat. I put Kalen DeBoer on the hot seat because strictly Alabama's expected to make the playoffs, right? Didn't make the playoffs last year, lost to Michigan in the bowl game. And Mike Norvell, I mean, you want to talk about a 360-degree turnaround? You go undefeated in the regular season 2 years ago, missed the college football playoff, and had basically 2 wins in 2024. That can't happen in Tallahassee. So you have Florida State catching 12.5 points. The lights better not go out in terms of Florida State, Scott. Are you taking the points with Mike Norvell and Florida State? Total is 50.5 in that ballgame.
I'm not. What's over under on him getting fired? Just fire the poor guy, right? He got a reprieve 2 years ago. You said it, but he was dead man walking entering that year. He gets a reprieve. They're as bad can be last year. I don't know how Florida State could be that bad like they were last year. No, I'm going against them. I don't think he survives 6 weeks. Or 6 games anyway, if they got a bye thrown in there. I think he's gone midway through the season. So I'm going against Florida State. So, yeah.
All right. Okay.
Now, you talk about expectations with the board Alabama. They're just as much with Florida State. I mean, especially what they did 2 years ago.
Well, if Kalen DeBoer, let's say, goes 8-4, 9-3 again and misses out on a college football playoff, will he be in Tuscaloosa next year?
He loses to Vanderbilt again, he will be. I'll tell you that.
We'll be back all next week. For Danny Ohlers and Scott Wetzel, I'm Joe Lisi. Have a great weekend, everyone.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.